quick rock around of the 15-year-old 2005 Acura RSX Type S, I have to say the exterior styling has aged quite well, especially in comparison to other cars in this price segment at this time. The RSX was known for its aggressive front fascia with its angular headlights on its initial model, and then when the refresh occurred in 2005, it became a little more refined as seen here. The car has a classic hatchback style shape that gave it a sporty appearance, but fortunately for us, had the performance to back it up. The RSX is shown here in stock as God had intended, with sporting 17-inch alloy wheels wrapped in all-season tires from Michelin. The smooth roofline gives the vehicle a sleek look until it meets the rear lip spoiler along with the more squared-off wedge rear bumper and angular taillights. Overall, the car sat at 101 inches long and 67 inches wide, making it very spacious on the inside, as well as small enough to fit in tight spaces such as the city. The car has a huge upside in practicality as well, with 16 cubic feet of space. With the seats folded down, it adds 10 more feet, giving it almost 26 cubic feet of space total, which far surpassed its rivals at the time. Fold the seats back up, and you had room for 4 people.
And here shows basically the very simple tachometer, white with black with red needles. All the driver controls for the roof, cruise control, and controlling the mirrors are easily accessible right behind the turn signals. The steering wheel has been quite leathered over the 16 years of ownership that I've had. That shows how many miles I've put on this car just myself. And also a very beat up gear shift knob lever showing the classic 6-speed gate with reverse on the right as Japanese transmission cars are. Fun novelty item, this car actually has a defect. When you shift it in third, sometimes it'll actually pop out on its own, especially while driving. And then another very funny feature, especially nowadays, is do you still have a car that has a tape player in it or a 6 CD changer? Because this one does. Outside of that, the other features just include normal climate control, as well as a Bose audio sound system, which by today's standards is a little bit outdated, but I think it was thumping pretty good back in the day.
The Acura interior featured leather-bolstered bucket seats with perforated leather inserts, which the build quality stands today. As you can see, the seats are still in very good shape. Since there is no dual climate control, GPS, or infotainment, I will now show the wonderful moonroof as the most used feature that I had in this car. Now let's move on to the engine. The Acura RSX Type S power plant was a 2-liter VTEC variable timing electronic control engine that produced 210 horsepower at 7,800 RPM, pounds-feet of torque at 7,000 RPM. This translates to having to really push the car in order for the full power to come to life. On the upside, this enhanced its fuel economy, giving it high 20s and low 30s in terms of its city highway miles per gallon. Additionally, its performance matched, giving it a 0 to 60 time in the mid 6-second range and a 14.9 second quarter mile, going on full throttle to a top speed of 146 miles per hour. Now let's take this car for a drive.
So here we are, driving the 2005 Acura RSX. It's hard to think that this car is 15 years old, although there are certain things about it that definitely show its age. In the world with evolving technology, everything in the car is becoming automated or assisted. This car is as basic as it can get. This car has a 6-speed transmission, a clutch pedal, turn signals, and a radio. And that's about it. I'd say the nicest, most elegant feature that this car really has is probably this moonroof. The best thing about this car is that it's simple. And simpler is always better. Oh, and by the way, it has an 8,100 red line from a VTEC, variable timing electronic control. And let me show you what that sounds like. The sound isn't boosted through the speakers. The sound isn't modified or any way. Just pure, naturally aspirated coming from a 2-cylinder engine, producing 210 horsepower. Now in today's numbers, that sounds like absolutely nothing. And to be quite honest, it isn't. But the way that it feels, the way that it sounds, the way that it handles, brakes, and feels through corners is what makes this car so special. But the car did a respectable 0 to 60
in 6.7 seconds and did a quarter mile in just under 15 seconds, which isn't fast by today's standards, but I think was respectable for a 4-cylinder vehicle. Oh, and did I mention, I think it was selling for around $26,000 to $27,000 US back in the day. Now, it isn't the most comfortable car. As you can tell, I'm doing about 60 miles an hour on the highway, and I do have to raise my voice because the road noise emitted through the tires and the very, very hard and taut suspension. Back in 2005, though, this car was all the rage. This car is really underrated for the 2000s, and unfortunately isn't a car that's really talked about anymore. Back in the day, you had cars such as the Subaru WRX STI, the Honda S2000, the Porsche Boxster, the Lancer Evo 8, the Mustang GT and Camaro's comeback after its awaited sleep. But for some reason, nobody seems to be talking about this car. This car came out swinging as well. I'm here to explain why this is one of the best cars from the early 2000s. This car debuted in 2002, coming out with a 200 horsepower, 2-liter, naturally aspirated 4-cylinder. But its parting piece and what made it so special was the fact that it had that super high 8,000 RPM redline that made this car absolutely sing. From a Honda, the VTECs are still around today. I don't really think there's anything in Acura's lineup that kind of lines up with what this car brings. Yes, everybody talks about the Acura Integra Type R, and yes, the NSX is a supercar, but what about the RSX? Where is its place in history? So the RSX was the successor to the very, very successful and popular Acura Integra, and as many consider the Acura Integra Type R to be one of the best front-wheel drive cars to ever come out of Japan. But the reason why I think this car was so great is because it took all the qualities from the Acura Integra and built upon it and made it more elegant. This car has leather bucket seats, it has a moonroof, it has cup holders, it has a tray, it has cup holders in the back, and these back seats go down. For some reason, I feel like this car should be worth and talked about more than it has. Sure, it was really, really popular and booming back in its heyday in the mid-2000s, but after it stopped production, Acura no longer created a car that kind of fit to this level. Yes, I saw at the Chicago Auto Show this year that they have a Type S that's coming out. But the car was big. It was really, really big, and it's probably fairly heavy. It, from an eyeballing standpoint, looked as large as an Audi A7, and I'm sure it weighed just as much as one as well. But if you wanted something light, nimble, this car weighed 2,800 pounds, and even though it only had 210 horsepower, the power-to-weight ratio was still above average, and the way that it feels, its hard and taut suspension, didn't make it the most comfortable car. And from living in Chicago with all these years and all these potholes, I can tell you, it doesn't handle that. You feel all the feedback, every single piece of common, wooden sticks and debris that you see on the road. You feel that feedback through the steering wheel. It's very, very difficult to describe. In terms of its bulletproof reliability, it is coming from Honda, guys. And this car has 122,000 miles. The only major repair that I had to do was changing the flywheel at about 115,000 miles. The variable timing electronic controller, VTEC, basically how it works is the car's valves open up past 7,000 RPMs. The downside of that is you have to rev really, really, really hard in order for it to get maximum power. So that makes it more difficult to find its natural power unless you're on the highway or something, or somewhere where you can really stretch the car's legs. However, when you do get there, just be prepared because you're in for a good time. Listen to this. And you don't have to turn traction control off and hit all these other buttons and hit this for maximum power. You don't have to turn the power up. There's so many other complicated steps that people have to take these days in their more advanced sports cars. But this, you literally just put the clutch in, let it off in first gear, and and drive. And you can punish these kinds of cars over and over again. Launching them, as long as you do it properly, these cars without a doubt can absolutely handle punishment day in and day out, making this, in my opinion, one of the best daily driver sports cars that you can have. The other reasons why is because of the seat capacity behind me, its ability to drive through all 4 seasons here located in Illinois. It has gotten me through 15 years of winter and continues to, and I know will continue to, because of its bulletproof Honda reliability. Handles traffic well, handles the highway well, has great gas mileage, easily obtainable of about 30 miles per gallon on the highway, and very, very high 20s in the city. And that's with me driving Mr. Leadfoot Mark Mendoza. Its practicality is some of the best that I've ever seen in a hatchback sports car. With those back seats folded down, you can fit quite a lot of groceries and even furniture if you wanted to. Back seats up, you got room for 4 people, easily. And one of the coolest things I like about this car is the car nerds know. The car nerds will see this and be like, oh man, I haven't seen an Acura RSX in a really, really long time. And you know, yours is in really, really good condition. Your car is clean. And I think it always is a reminder that this car was really hot back in the day. But for some reason, like I said before, all the credit seems to go to the Acura Integra and the NSX. Where's the credit for this car? Going through the gears, it's very mechanical. One thing that I really like about this car is the fact that it's an RSX. People will come to you and say, oh, that's an RSX. And it's a reminder to me and a reminder to everybody that talks to me about this car that this thing was really a hot commodity back when it first came out in the mid-2000s. Let me show you again how good 8,000 RPMs sounds like.